Good evening, my precious friends. Got a guitar going out to a buddy of mine, so I wanted to get it nice and dialed in so that my friends still like me. So here's what I've been doing. This is a 1998 Les Paul Special. It's upside down, but y'all can read still. It came to me in super rough shape for the right price for something being in super rough shape. As you can see, dings and rash and marks and true relicking because it belonged to a kid in a college band who didn't even have a case for it. He wasn't the first owner either. And so when he wanted beer money, his words, not mine, he let it go for a song. And then I've had it honestly about 10 years. And I am stoked to send it on for a little bit of a long-term lend to a buddy who is a producer out in Nashville. So I want to make sure I don't make a fool of myself when that friend opens the package. Nothing actually wrong with it at all. It had just been about 5 years since it had had its last setup. And even that setup was just kind of like an interim, not like full-blown top to bottom give it the love treatment, right? So there was a little bit of oxidation on the frets. That's probably my fault for not having played it very often. So I started with the full fretboard and fret love treatment, fretboard conditioning. So that is lubricated and oiled now. Frets have been polished. I just got a new fun tool for recrowning and getting the right profile, the right curvature into frets again. It didn't really need it because I hadn't leveled them flat, but I did put a little tiny bit more crown back in it as well. So look how shiny. Anyway, that's feeling good. I took all of the hardware off, all of it, including tuning machines. Gave it an ultrasonic bath, which was a decision that I made given that these are sealed tuning machines. And I knew that would mean that water would get into them a little bit. So I have given them plenty of time to dry out and then re-lubricated them with this here bottle of Tri-Flow lubricant. This is super thin oil. This is what the good guys use. Should get a lot of nice long life out of these tuning machines in its new home in Nashville. They are replacement tuning machines, as you can see. There's a little extra on the holes because they at some point were replaced. This tuning machine, the screw down here was stripped out, so filled that with a little tight bond and some toothpick. And it's all super, super solid now as well. But there was just a lot of old grime. It had been a long time since it had gone through a deep, deep cleaning. So I did that deep cleaning and got it all strung up for 10s, 10 to 46 Diodario XLs. They were binding a little bit in the channels of this nut. I'm not convinced that's the original nut. I'm not convinced it's not going to need a replacement at some point. But strings were binding just a little bit, so I got my new nut files and gave that the treatment as well. You can see the truss rod cover is off because as it settles in to these new strings, I want to make sure that it is all set as far as the neck relief goes. Reminder for those in the back of the class, that is the bowing effect, the bow and arrow effect of strings putting tension on a neck and making the neck curve. So I totally am that dork who checked the weather in Nashville to see what the relative humidity is. Relative humidity right now in Nashville is 43%. Right here in my studio, it is 46%. So that's close enough. So I know that whatever setup I do to it here, this guitar has been in this room at about this stable humidification for a year now. So I know it's not going to change if it goes to Nashville, where right now at least the relative humidity is 43%. Basically sames, right? Can't really speak for what happens in transit, but there are, you know, packets for humidification that I can put in. And honestly, a couple days of ground transportation via UPS insured, it's not really going to make that much of a difference there. Last check of the neck relief. You can see I got the capo on the first fret. And I got my feeler gauge here. This is by Music Nomad. It's literally just like any other feeler gauge, except that this one only has the 3 that you most commonly want to use. So marketed straight to dorks like me. So capo on the first fret so that height is established, that first fret height. Then holding down the 12th fret so that we are looking at what the curvature is between these 2 points. And I'm looking for 6 thousandths of an inch right here at the 6th fret. We want it to barely touch. That's barely touching. I think I'm gonna stop before I screw something up. Let's check the string height. Sitting, yeah, just right at about 6 thousandths there. Right about 5 thousandths there. That's pretty good. That's pretty much right there, low medium. Recommended with the asterisk. I'm feeling good about that. The pots were still good. No scratchies at all on the volumes or the tone, so I didn't have to do anything there. That is pretty great. You know, obviously switch works. Everything's functioning great, wonderfully. So I'm just gonna give it a few hours to settle with the truss rod adjustment that I made. And then I'm gonna put that cover back on and it's gonna be ready to box up and ship out. So all sorts of fun. Stoked it's gonna get some use. God knows I have way too many guitars in this room. This one was feeling a little neglected. So happy to get it into the hands of someone who's going to really put it to use and potentially on projects that you might hear. So that's pretty fun too. Couple bits of advice if you're going to be shipping a guitar. First thing, make sure you load up your friends with a bunch of garbage. No, just kidding. This is not just me disposing of my trash. What I've done is I've put some thicker cardstock in between the strings and the frets. The reason I do that, you can see on this hardshell case, see these lines? That's where the strings go, right? So there's pressure on the strings pushing them down against the fretboard. That's not a problem when you're just carrying your stuff. But in the event that something gets like packed on top of the box that has your case in it, or something gets dropped or whatever, what you don't want is for these strings to make a sharp impact with the fret, and then you got a ding in your fret, and you've got to, you know, replace it or repair that. So that's what this accomplishes. Just something in between the strings and the frets, so that if there's an impact, you're set. The other thing I've done is I have let down all the tension off of the strings, so that there is nothing pulling on this neck. Gibsons specifically are notorious with that like angled backwards headstock for, again, if there's any sort of impact or whatever, you wind up getting a snapped off headstock. So one thing that I'm doing to avoid or at least reduce the risk of that is let the tension off of the strings so that there's nothing pulling on that headstock. That way it's just itself. It can handle jostles and bumps a little bit easier on its own without strings pulling on it as well. So, sorry, bud, you're gonna have to tune it up when you get it. And there it is, ready to roll. Hey, it's an Epiphone case. Yeah, same case with a Gibson logo would have cost me 20 bucks more. But I picked this one up super cheap. I don't know, maybe 40 bucks or so. Craigslist, gotta love that stuff. So anyway, ready to ship out. And I am so stoked to get someone better than me's hands on this thing. Okay, bye, love you, bye.